I was never the one to believe in the existence of ghosts or any paranormal activities. But after the night of 28th December 1995, my views were completely shaken. I had recently started living in my college's hostel located on the distant mountain ranges of Shillong. My friends and I had heard several stories of spirits haunting the students in the past. There had been cases of strange bloody footprints found on the bathroom floor and sobbing noises from the ancient tree opposite the hostel. Before I narrate what happened with me, let me begin with an anecdote. One of my hostel seniors once told me her own experience when she was returning from her college late at night around 10 p.m., and a haggard old lady came from behind an old tree. She asked her to take a look at her baby, flung in her around her arms and carefully wrapped in a cloth. My friend thought twice, but seeing an old woman with a baby in trouble, she stopped and got out of her car. As she came closer to the woman, she removed the cloth from the baby. After that, my friend blacked out and fainted. She remained in a state of shock for several days. Days later, she dared to speak and told us that the baby had the goriest face she had ever seen. His face was filled with bloody scraped skin, and his eyes were all black. When I was told this, I believed that she must have hallucinated, because as I said, I was a non-believer then. But what I am about to narrate is a real-life experience. My friends and I, on the fateful day, decided to call a spirit. It was raining incessantly outside, so the night was damp and cold. Few of them backed out because they believed the spirit would possess them. I sat down calmly, as I thought this would be a fun experience. We chose to do this on the top floor of our hostel, which was still under construction. We sat down with an Ouija board, a board used to call spirits, in the center of our circle. One of my friends started chanting. An hour passed, nothing happened. All we could hear was the silent dripping of the rain on our windowsill. After a few minutes, I heard the creak of a door, but I ignored it, thinking it was the wind. Suddenly, the windows and lights started shaking, and we heard a strange whisper coming from the bathroom alley. The whisper turned into horrendous sounds of pain. We got the courage and sat up. I opened the door, but it was pitch dark, so we could see anything. As we started going back, I caught something from the corner of my eye. I gasped and gripped my friend's hand after what I saw. At the end of the corridor, a man was standing. We could not see clearly, but it seemed he was slowly moving toward us. We ran as fast as we could, but when we reached the staircase, it was there, a figure sitting on the stairs. We froze and our throats tied up. He slowly turned his head and glared at us with hellish red eyes. He caught my hand and said, "Why did you call me?" I could not believe what I saw. My heart was thudding so loudly that I could hear it in the silence. I could feel his death-cold hands on my skin, and what I thought was him staring right into my soul. None of us answered him. He told us that we had made a grave mistake, and we'd have to pay for it. Since then, many students have disappeared mysteriously. One body was found hanging from the window of the same room we had placed ourselves to invite the spirit. My hands have the mark of his grip, but none of us ever spoke of that night, not even to each other. We silently watched girls disappearing and dying horrendously until they had to finally shut down the hostel after a few years. Venice is a famous Italian city built along canals bordered by many beautiful palaces. This is a story about one of these palaces. The palace was named Emilia, after Princess Emilia. She was the most beautiful princess of Venice with very long hair, a very sweet voice, and liked music. Emilia was in love with a prince, but the prince deceived her and left her all alone. Emilia was not able to tolerate this, and she eventually committed suicide in her room. Now the people of Venice believe that the soul of the princess is in her room and plays a piano every night. Emilia's palace has been converted into a hotel, and it is believed that the princess's room is room number 202. James Carlo was one of the famous journalists of Venice. He had heard a lot about the Emilia Palace, so he decided to go to the palace and find out the truth behind the haunting. He went to the hotel and booked room number 201 to know the truth behind room number 202. He started living there and made a hole in the wall between room number 201 and 202. As the night crept in, the sound of a piano started to come from room number 202. James heard the music and watched the room through the hole, but all he saw was a red light in the room. Every night he tried to look into the room, but every time he saw a dark red light in the room. Then James decided to leave the hotel. While he was packing his luggage, a waiter came to take some orders. James talked to that waiter and told him that there was no soul, and asked him, "Can you tell me anything about Princess Emilia and what she looked like?" The waiter said she had very long hair, fair in color, and red eyes. When the journalist heard about the red eyes, he started thinking about the red light that he had watched in room number 202, and realized it was her watching him all this time. Suddenly he had a heart attack and died. Since that day, no one has gone to Hotel Emilia because of room No. 202. If you like the stories, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel to receive the latest exclusive and scary stories. It happened in 2002. I was 8 years old at that time when one of my favorite uncles died. A night before we received the bad news, my mother saw a ball of fire we call St. Elmo's ball of fire, hovering along the mirror on the cabinet in my mother's room. That night she told us about it, and I had goosebumps when she said, "I think someone close to me died." She said that because every time she sees a ball of fire, she receives news that someone close to her, maybe a friend or a family relative, died. My uncle's wake was held at my mother's hometown in Davao del Norte, and we lived in Cotabato, so we had to go there. Almost every night during our stay there, my mother, together with my uncles and aunts and other family relatives, would drink many bottles of wine until they were all drunk at one of my aunt's stores. Most of the time I would go with my mom there to play with my other cousins who were just my age. We stay at our grandma's house, but I always go to my aunt's house because it is boring at my grandma's home. One night when my mother was already drunk and my Aunt Ging was just a bit tipsy after a few bottles of wine, Aunt Ging decided to take my mother and me home so that Mo could take a rest and I could go to sleep because the time I was sleepy for it is already midnight. On our way to my grandma's home, which was just a barely 5-minute walk from my aunt's residence, I was crying because I was afraid of the dark. We were in the middle of the woods, and I'd never seen my mom very drunk before, that she couldn't walk straight anymore, and I thought something real bad is happening to her. Then my mother suddenly stumbled and fell on the trunk of a cut banana tree, and I cried loudly, 'cause I was worried my mother was hurt. My aunt told me to shut up, but I cried louder when I saw a crying, mysterious lady in front of the mango tree ahead of us. I was terrified 'cause I swear that lady wasn't there, and then in just a second, she suddenly appeared. I was pulling my aunt to show it to her, but she is too busy helping my mother to get up. It was dark out there, but as I can remember, the lady looked bright as if she was under the spotlight. She wore a white shirt, and I think a messy gray skirt. Her shirt was kinda messy too, and she had rope tied around her neck. The sight of her coming near us freaked me out, and while crying I screamed, Auntie, let's hurry back to your house. I don't want to be here anymore. Help Mama get up quickly. The lady is coming near us now. Hurry up." I was pulling my aunt, and my mother was already up. They both looked where I was pointing, and they both said, "What lady?" I answered, pointing in the direction of the mango tree. "There." "There's no one there. It's just your freaking imagination." "No, I swear she was just there. In fact, just a second ago she was approaching us. Please believe me." My mother said, "Have you been drinking too? I thought I was the only one drunk here." As I was going to answer, the three of us were startled when a mysterious old woman appeared in front of us from nowhere and told me, "You can see her. Your eye is open." "Who her? Who are you?" my aunt asked. "The lady your niece is telling you," said the old woman. "But I didn't see any lady at the spot she told us. She used to live beside that mango tree a long time ago. No one dared to make friends with her because they said she was an aswang, for when she came to this municipality, many mysterious killings occurred, and the victims' internal organs were gone. Only one man dared to talk to her, and this man was just a visitor in the place who was kind and would believe what the people were saying about the poor girl. He dared go into the woods to see the lady. They became friends and fell in love with each other. The man proved the stories wrong, for the lady was just a castaway from her family who wants and forces her to marry some guy she doesn't know and she hasn't even met. But the time came when the man had to leave and go back to the place where he lived. The man broke up with her, even if hurt. The lady pleaded not to, but the guy didn't listen anymore and left the lady crying. The guy left the small town and after a few days, they found the dead body of the lady hanging in her house. They said that the lady may have hung herself after the boy had left. They also suspect that the lady is bearing a child because the skirt she wore when she died was full of blood. The people gave the girl a proper funeral, but the spirit of the girl still lingers here, waiting for her love to come back for her. After the old woman told us all of it, she went in the opposite direction we were heading. We were supposed to pass by the mango tree because that is the fastest way to my grandma's house. But my aunt took the longer route in which we would not pass by the mango tree. Maybe my aunt got scared about the old woman's story. I didn't stop crying until we reached our grandma's house. People were asking us what had happened, but we ignored them. I went immediately to the room where we slept, laid down, covered my head with a pillow, and went to sleep. When I woke up that morning, I found out that my aunt decided to sleep over there instead of going back to her house. I asked her if she remembered what happened last night, and all she said was, "I do remember your mother fell to the ground. Why?" I said, "Don't you remember the woman, the old woman who talked to us?" "What old woman? I don't remember any of that stuff. Maybe you've just dreamed about it." "No, there is that old woman who talked to us last night, right, Mom?" I asked my mother. "What?" "No, all I remember is that I fell and you were crying." I thought they were just pretending, or maybe it was because of the alcohol that they couldn't remember anything. But as I looked at them, they were both serious about what they were telling me. When I brought up the story again, they were consistent with what they had told me when I first asked them if they remembered what had happened during that night. I got tired of making them remember, that's why I don't bring up the story to them again. If you like the stories, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel to receive the latest exclusive and scary stories.